Hi, it's Amy from Select Travel Holidays, and I hope you're still enjoying our virtual touring and destinations festival. Throughout all these presentations, we've obviously looked at some incredible destinations, and as I think I mentioned at the start, there's even the occasional focus on particular types of touring, such as solo travel, rail holidays, luxury touring, etc. For this part of the festival, we're going to take a look at perhaps one of the more misunderstood styles of touring, which is the adventure travel sector. Because of course, usually when you hear the word adventure, you might think you have to be Bear Grylls or it's for young travellers. But what we'll find is that actually neither of those is in fact the case. I mean, I've gone on a few adventure travel trips myself, and on none of them have I had to bungee jump, jump out of an airplane, or do anything particularly strenuous. Unless of course I chose to, such as when I opted to go on the one-day hike to the Machu Picchu on the Inca Trail, which was one of the best experiences of my life and one of my fondest travel memories. And of course, when I went on these adventure travel trips, I was in small groups with people from all over the world, from all sorts of different walks of life, and of course equally different ages. There were people from their 20s right up through to their 70s. So there's really not a typical adventure traveller in terms of age. Perhaps it's more in terms of a state of mind or a mind frame. It's someone who wants to immerse themselves in a different culture to really experience the world and actually see it perhaps more through the eyes of a local, because what you'll find on an adventure travel trip is that you will be staying in more local accommodation. You won't be in the likes of a Western chain hotel. You'll have perhaps smaller family businesses owning hotels or restaurants that you'll eat in. You will have always a local tour leader, so it won't be a tour manager from the UK, it will actually be a local. So it's really about travelling quite often to off the beaten track or some of the less visited destinations with a local, and really, I guess, like I said, seeing it through a local's eyes. And it's those sort of new experiences that are key and pivotal to an adventure travel trip, and that's one of the biggest differences. So it's not necessarily adventure in terms of seeking adrenaline thrills. It's those new and different experiences that are out of the ordinary, and I think really that's the takeaway. So we've got G Adventures, who are the largest independent adventure travel company in the world, to show you what adventure travel is about. I've been lucky enough to actually travel with G Adventures twice myself. So the first time was on one of their sailing trips, Athens to Mykonos, which was great fun. It was a real experience, and although I must admit I was quite seasick, but despite having cruised for over 20 years, I must admit my sea legs can still be pretty shaky at times, so but it didn't put me off. I loved it, and I actually later went and booked a G Adventures for my own holiday when I went to Peru as a solo traveller with G Adventures, and had the most incredible, amazing time. And so yes, I'm always happy to personally recommend G Adventures and adventure travel in general. So with this presentation, Stu Darnley from G Adventures hopes to not only help dispel some of those myths that you might have thought of adventure travel, but also showcase some of the incredible things that you can enjoy and experience with G Adventures. So he's going to tell us a bit more about G, but also he's going to tell us a bit about Planeterra, their social enterprise, which is really another key part of adventure travel. That it's really a lot about responsible or sustainable travel, and as I've already mentioned, a lot of it is about giving back to the local economies and communities in which you visit on an adventure trip. And so he's going to tell us a bit more about that. And I really think that you'll discover with this presentation that the adventure travel sector is actually something that is pretty incredible, something that you might like to try. And I really hope you enjoy this presentation. As you can see, the whole world is open to you and any fellow adventurers, so enjoy.
Well, hello everyone. I hope you're safe and well, and a special thanks, of course, to Select Travel Holidays for having us to tell you a little bit about the world of G Adventures. I'm Stu Darnley. I'm the National Sales Manager at G Adventures. Massive lover of travel. I've been to about 70 countries, fortunately. I've been to the Arctic, Antarctic, Bhutan, Galapagos. I love travel, as I'm sure you love travel as well. And G Adventures, when I came across G Adventures, just was the perfect fit for me. I certainly love the adventure travel side of things. But what I'll tell you guys in this short little presentation as part of this adventure week is that word adventure is perhaps not what you think. So everyone thinks the word adventure in our name is, oh, so you've got to be Bear Grylls. It's all about mountain climbing. Well, I guess I'm here to help dispel some of those myths and convince you that you'd be great on a G Adventures trip and it'd be perfect for you. So we'll start off with who's G Adventures? Well, we're the biggest independent adventure travel company in the world, and we run trips in more than 600 tours in over 100 countries. So you can see there on the map, we pretty much go anywhere you'd want to go. So we go out to America, of course. We've got trips in Vegas. We go to the Canadian Rockies. We've got lots of trips in Europe. We do the Far East with India and China and Japan, Australia. But then, of course, we go to perhaps more remote locations, which would be harder to spot on a map, like Myanmar, like Laos, like Bhutan, Nepal. And of course, in South America, we've got Brazil, Peru, Ecuador, all of those. So what do we do at G Adventures? Well, I like to say that we do a bit less of this, which is really hard to imagine at the minute, isn't it, when you think of social distancing and all. So we say a bit less of that and a bit more of something like our Thai sailing, where you get on that small yacht. It only takes 12 people and you sail out to this beautiful these remote islands off the south coast of Thailand, where it's just you and anyone else that's sailed there. So at the core of what we do is we run small group adventures. So that means a maximum of 16 people on most trips, and usually an average of 12. And the reason that's so great is because if you've only got 12 people on a trip, then it's probably 6 couples. Sometimes, of course, it's people traveling in 4s or 6s together. But you can imagine how that's really not a lot of people, and you can kind of get on and off transport quite easily. You're not left waiting, where's that person that's always late and you're waiting to get back on the coach, that kind of thing. It also means that we don't use coaches. So more often than not, you'll have a minivan, or we use other types of private transport, or you'll be using local transport, which is really nice, local trains, local buses. And it also means when it comes to meals, you can usually all sit together on the same table or 2 tables. So you really get to know those other travelers, which is really nice. And even a simple act of checking in at a hotel is also made easier because there's not too many people. We do small river adventures as well. So this is in Burgundy in France. And this is our canal boat, which travels through the canals of Burgundy. And it's certainly a very slow paced trip. You'll see there's some bikes on the top there, so you can take the bikes off and cycle along next to the riverboat there. There's a hot tub as well. And this one takes 24 people, but we also have a river adventure in Peru, in the Amazon. And then we've got one in the Mekong as well in Southeast Asia through Vietnam and Cambodia. We're really big in the Galapagos as well, where we've got several boats. And of course, again, small sizes. So really great for getting ashore and going to remote little beaches. If you're on quite a big vessel, that could be difficult. And it could be difficult to get into those small locations. So that's a really big advantage. And the Galapagos, if you've been watching any of the Planet Earth stuff, any of the Perfect Planet with David Attenborough, the Galapagos is just such a beautiful location to go to with just such vibrant wildlife. We also do small sailing adventures. So in Europe, you can go small monohull sailing, so a single hull. and that would be 8 passengers on those, and that's sailing through the Greek islands between Santorini and Mykonos and Naxos, or in Croatia, or our brand new one, which is actually in the Canary Islands. And then this one pictured is our sailing in the Maldives, which we've been running recently. We have 2 vessels there. This is the more basic of the 2, and then we have a nicer one. And we did actually have some customers get away on that trip in late December. There was actually a couple that did 2 back-to-back trips. So they spent 14 days sailing around the Maldives over Christmas, New Year's, which with all the kind of fuss and stuff that was going on here with the short window that everyone had to see friends and family, sounds like a beautiful place to be around that time out in the Maldives. We've also got sailing in Sri Lanka as well, where we quite often see blue whales. And these are all small experiences. So they're all anywhere from 8 to, I think, a maximum of 14 people. Another big thing on the bucket list is we go to Antarctica and the Arctic, and we go aboard our own ship, and she's only 134 passengers. So anyone familiar with cruising will know kind of how many passengers can be on some ships. So I wanted to show you this picture I took from South America when we were getting ready to go to Antarctica. And you can see we've got the G Expedition here, our ship, next to, I guess, a regular size cruise ship. And just you can see that, but even the top of the ship there doesn't even come up to where a lot of the balconies start. And at 134 passengers, of course, that larger ship behind, a few thousand, will have more crew than that. So it does mean there's only one restaurant. But of course, we've got a brilliant chef on board, and that's not why you're going to Antarctica. You know, we've got fantastic food on board, but we don't have rock climbing walls and swimming pools and things like that. It's all about the wildlife when we're there. So I guess to go back to that, what is adventure travel? Well, I like to use this picture I came across a few years ago to say, you don't have to be this guy. You know, it's not about Bear Grylls. It's not about rock climbing. There's no rock climbing included on any G Adventures trips. You know, I once made a joke with someone to say, oh yeah, every morning you go skydiving, that's part of the tour. No, it's nothing like that at all. You know, what we would say is it's about new and unique experiences. So some of your best experiences you've had on trips, you'll think back, and it won't necessarily be the hotel, or it won't necessarily be the city, but it will be, you know, the food experience that you had where you went and tried deep pan pizza in Chicago or New York, or maybe you went and saw everything I think about comes back to food at the minute. Maybe you went and had some pizza in Italy. Maybe you went snorkeling and saw some sharks. You know, it's those little things that all kind of come together, and that's what you remember about the trip. So if we were renaming the company, and I do not have the authority to do that, I think it would be G Experience would make a lot of sense. You know, so it's all about the experience and coming back and feeling like you really got to see a country. So the other great advantages of this type of travel is avoiding the tourist traps. So those smaller people means that we don't have to go through the kind of group entry sections of locations. This picture is in America at Lake Taupo, where that's actually a camping trip. So you can really get away from it all. We travel with a local, which means, I mean, no one knows their town, their country better than a local. If you wanted to show a friend around your local town, your area, you would know the places to go, the places for the best coffee, maybe the places not to go. So that's incredibly important when you're traveling. And of course, especially important now, because if you're out traveling in another country, you know that your guide is a local, you know they have a phone that works out there, you know that they speak the local language. So should anything come up with COVID, etc., then you know you're in good hands. The other great thing about this type of travel is you're meeting with other travelers. So we normally have in 2019, I guess our last complete year, we had 115 nationalities travel with us. So that's people from all across the world that you're meeting. So in that group that you've got, which is 12 to 16 people usually, you'll have some Canadians, some Americans, some Australians, maybe someone from Singapore, some Germans, of course, English or Irish. And that really adds to the entire flavor of the trip. So you may have gone all the way to Jordan to experience Jordan and everything it has to offer, but also you're getting that extra flavor and you're getting to meet other people from other cultures, which really helps for conversation as well around the dinner table. And you end up with all these great friends from around the world. We also say that we've got something for everyone. So we've got trips that are great for families as well, because, you know, we love to travel with kids. My kids aren't quite old enough yet, but I do want to get out and travel on this style of travel with them when I can. So I won't go through all the travel styles, but just to say that we've got different travel styles, and that's how we split up those 600 to 700 trips. We've got our classic trips. We've got our 18 to 30, which is hostels or camping generally. So for that reason, they're even cheaper. We've got our active trips, which is the likes of climbing Kilimanjaro if you want to. We've got our marine trips, which I mentioned, which is the sailing, the Galapagos, Antarctica. Wellness, where you can go away on a bit of a retreat, so to speak. And we've got those in Italy, Iceland, Argentina, Bali. Local living, as the name suggests, you live like a local. So there's one that we've got in a Tuscan village in Italy, and you'll go and you'll stay there in the, it's actually within the vineyard, and you'll learn to make pasta and you'll learn to make limoncello. Sounds terrible, doesn't it? And then we've got our partnership with National Geographic, where we've got those trips as well, which I'll come on to. Something that's really popular and something that people have been asking a lot about is we can put together a private group for you. So that could be that you want to connect with friends and family you haven't seen in a while, and you want to get away again. Yeah, great chance to get away and connect with family members. So any tour you see, we can look to make that a private group, so it's just for you guys. On a few of the places that we go, that some of I've mentioned, but some of the core destinations for us, we go to Peru, where it's a great chance to see Machu Picchu. If you're feeling a bit active, you can walk to Machu Picchu along the Inca Trail. We go out to the Galapagos that I mentioned, which is just unmatched for wildlife off the coast of Ecuador on the equator in South America. We go to Antarctica as well as the Arctic. If you're looking for something a little bit closer to home, Morocco, 4 to 5 hours away by flight, so not too far, and such a completely different culture out there, and also great weather, when it gets a bit cold here. Egypt as well, we've got trips that go down the Nile, we've got trips that go to neighboring Jordan. South Africa and African safaris have been trending in general, lots of people looking to go there. Vietnam as well, we're very big in Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, lots of great trips around there, really great ways to travel around Vietnam. Quite often we're on trains when we're out there. Costa Rica, we're running trips in Costa Rica right now. Such a biodiverse country, where you've got beaches on both sides. So you've got the Caribbean, and then on the other side, you've got the Pacific, and you've got all the sloths and all the monkeys and all the volcanoes. Such a beautiful country. A little bit closer to home, you've got Iceland, of course, with the volcanoes and all the geysers, and the whales as well. And then I did kind of touch on Africa before, but yeah, East Africa has been really popular. Lots of people looking to book that. So what we're finding on the whole is that people are getting ready to travel. We're running trips right now, which is really exciting. But people also want to get away. And for us, it seems that they'll want to go to remote locations. So there's been a lot of people interested in Everest Base Camp, climbing Kilimanjaro, going to the Maldives, going on safari. They're not necessarily drawn to big city centers like New York. Now, we don't run a New York City break, but what we're finding with the travelers that are traveling with us is they're looking to go to these remote locations where they can get out, explore and travel again, but they recognize that, maybe at this time they don't want to be around a lot of people. So I guess what are some of the different things about G Adventures? Big thing is that responsible travel is at our core. Now, we have a great opportunity when we're starting to travel again and people get traveling to travel in the right way and make sure that money stays in the local economy where we travel, that we treat people fairly, that we don't photograph children, we don't give donations to children, beggars and things like that. And we have a whole set of policies around that explain how we ensure that money goes back into the local economy. And one of the best ways that we measure this is with our Ripple score. So our Ripple score is a measure of how much money stays in the local economy. So what that means is, let's say you got off the plane in Peru with £100, and each time you were spending some of that money, you'd want to know if that person lives locally. Is that a local business? Because if you're spending money at McDonald's, there is a McDonald's actually in Peru, if you're spending money there, then some money stays local and some money goes back to the West where the head office is in America. And we really want to maximize that money staying locally. To put it in another way, if you're going to the Lake District or the Cotswolds and you had a choice to stay with a really big American hotel, I'm not sure there's any actually big American hotels based there, but if you had a choice between staying at a big American hotel where that money's going to go back to America or somewhere else, or staying in an Airbnb or a B&B rather, where you know the money is going to go to that family and it's going to pay for football lessons and it's going to pay for ballet lessons, then that's what we're going for. We're making sure the money stays in the local economy, because travel can be the greatest form of wealth distribution the world has ever seen. Generally, the more wealthy nations travel to the poorer nations, and with that, we bring in our money, through the hotels, through the meals, through the souvenirs. So we do want the money to stay locally, and that's incredibly important to us. So the other thing about us is we don't have guides. It might sound a little funny, but that's because we call them chief experience officers. So the most important person on your trip is the local guide. And so we've elevated them and given them the title of CEO, or Chief Experience Officer. And as I mentioned before, they're on the ground, they're your expert, they know everything about the destination. We ensure that they're locals, they're very well connected, and they're in charge of delivering the best trip. They're your main point of contact with G Adventures, so they have to absolutely be the best. The other thing, as we're nearing towards the end here, the other thing about G Adventures is guaranteed departures. Now, the pandemic kind of threw that up in the air a little bit, but what we mean by guaranteed departures is there's no minimum numbers. So if you were looking to book on a trip and the trip had 50 people or maybe 30 people, that would be the normal size, then some companies will say, look, unless we get 10, we can't really run this, because we're trying to fit 10 people on a really big coach. So we can't really run that trip. But for us, because we use small local transport, because we operate small groups, all your trips are guaranteed, which means we're not going to say, oh, I'm sorry, that date wasn't very popular, so we can't run it, which I think is really important for you as well, because it means you can book your trip, you can book your flights, and you don't need to worry about, maybe it won't go ahead. I touched on National Geographic a little earlier. National Geographic, really exciting partnership. They approached us maybe 5-6 years ago now and said, let's work together, let's put some trips together. So our National Geographic trips are our most comfortable trips. They're our upgraded trips. And so that means you can expect accommodation that's probably around a 4-star. We don't like to put a star rating on it, because sometimes in different parts of the world, the stars aren't really created equal, but they're our most upgraded accommodation. And the other great thing about working with National Geographic is, of course, they're so big, they're so well respected that they've got access to a lot of different locations. So that means that on a lot of the National Geographic trips, there'll be an exclusive, at least one, if not many, National Geographic exclusive inclusions. So that could mean access to a university aquarium in Australia, or meeting with a chimpanzee expert in Uganda. And so that really helps add to the flavor as well of the trip. Also worth mentioning briefly, we've got our National Geographic Family Journeys. So this is a collection of trips around the world where there'll be 2 of those CEOs, so 2 local guides. And of course, these trips are designed so that other families are on them as well. So not only are you traveling with your children, but there's other parents traveling with their children. And so it all becomes a great melting pot for everyone to get along, and for the kids to have new friends and potentially meet people from different parts of the world as well, which is really nice. So they end up having pen pals, so to speak. They end up having friends from other parts of the world, which I think is really nice. I did want to mention briefly, we put together some brand new Europe trips, because the research we've had is that people are going to be holidaying a little bit closer to home, perhaps. So we put together some brand new trips that we've got, which is Eastern Iceland. We've got some hiking in Corfu. We've got Northern Greece, where you climb Mount Olympus. Brand new trip in Ibiza. Most people think Ibiza, of course, they think of going to the beaches, going to the bars. This is a hiking trip with day hikes in Ibiza around the coast. We've got Cyprus, Greenland, Canary Islands, hiking and sailing, Northern Sicily, Southern Sicily, Slovenia, Southern Spain, Azores, Madeira, and Piedmont in France. I think that says Italy, but it's in France. Oh, sorry, no, Northern Italy. I'm correcting myself. So one of those is hiking the Canary Islands. So of course the Canaries, well renowned for its weather, especially this time of year. So all of these trips are going to be day hikes. You're not going to be carrying anything just except your water, maybe camera, coat, that kind of thing. So that's a fantastic trip to see a different side of the Canaries. We've got sailing the Canary Islands, which you can combine with the hiking. Great chance to sail between them, and it's not very well touristy down there for the sailing. So it's a great option to get to remote beaches and locations that people don't normally go. I'm not sure if I mentioned Crete before in the summary, but we go to Samaria Gorge. Again, you can see in that top left picture walking along the coast. So this is not really tough hiking or climbing. A lot of it's walking along coasts, and it just looks absolutely stunning. And then just to show you one other one here, so in northern Sicily, where you're going to see 3 different volcanoes, and of course take in all that Sicilian culture. And then we're almost at the end. I just wanted to say we're running tours now. So it may seem like many people aren't traveling, except for all the influencers in Dubai, but we're running tours now. And in September, October last year, we ran some Greek sailing, which is the picture on the left. In the middle there, we ran some trekking around Mont Blanc, around Switzerland, around France. And then on the right there, we've got a picture from one of our Costa Rica trips, which is running and started last week. And then we actually had a few days ago, a group climb and reach the top of Kilimanjaro. So it's really exciting to be back out there, to be traveling again. Hopefully that gives you the confidence that when you're ready to travel, that we're out there and we're already on the ground. So we're not going to just be starting from the starting line saying, oh, how does this travel thing work again? And trying to remember how things work. But we would have been out there, we would have been traveling and refining, our cleaning methods and all those things, which are going to be so important. We do have a lot of details around COVID. Didn't really want to mention the word, to be honest, because I think everyone's sick of it, but they're up on our website, or you can reach out, of course, to the team, to the Select Travel team that will be able to tell you anything you should want to know. So, of course, we've got policies around hand washing and masks and how we keep everyone clean should anything happen. And we can always provide those if people are wondering. So I guess the final thing is to say, when you're ready to travel, so are we. We've got a sale on at the minute, which is our 18 to 30 something and marine sale. And that's for 15% off for travel until the end of June 2022. So really long window, because some people want to travel next year and they're ready to book now. And that's on sale throughout all of February as well. So we've got our Book with Confidence policy, which you'll find up on our site, or you can speak to the team, and that permits you to book your tour and then you can change it closer to travel. Our Travel with Confidence is all the steps that we're taking to ensure you're safe on the trip. Our Travel with Confidence Plus collection is a collection of 30 trips, which have even smaller groups that are only maximum 12, and they have private transport. And then your Book Your Bubble collection is a collection of 80 or so trips that are perfect for private groups. But the main thing is smaller is better, smaller groups is better. So thank you. Thank you again to the team for having me. Should anyone have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to them, and they can get in touch with me if they have questions. So thank you. I'll just finish by saying, stay positive, test negative, and thank you very much. Bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that presentation, and I hope it perhaps dispelled some myths that you might have thought of adventure travel. As I've said, I'm personally a big fan of adventure travel, and I'm always happy to answer any questions you might have, either about G-Adventure specifically or adventure touring in general. And if you do want to contact us, call us on 01234 326 778, or of course email us sales@cruiseselect.co.uk, and Team Select will be happy to help. But thank you for watching the presentation. I hope you learned something and maybe were inspired, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the festival. But for the meantime, take care. As Stu said, stay positive, test negative.